What's up, everyone? So it is 3:55 in the morning on June 13th, 2020. I'm here just finishing up this project. It's gonna be a base, a boxing base, like for a speed bag to hang off of. So yeah, gotta get it done because we've had it for a while now, and the client wants it already. Customer. So I wanted to do that before I started continuing on with my story. Um, this is part 3 of my story. By the way, I'm on the My Life in Hollywood chapter right now. In the last video, I left off talking about uh going to um a job that was for a nude model stand-in. So basically, on that job, I met a man by the name of Richard. He was pretty tall. I'd say maybe about 6.5 feet or so tall, black man. That was working on the set of that the 12 Eves photo shoot, and he's the one that invited me to the other job where I was being a stand-in, or not a stand-in. I was being a nude model, like for an for an art class. It was at okay, so this is where it kind of starts to get a little crazy, just a tad bit, because of some of the things that was told by the people in this next part that I'm gonna mention. And I'll call this one Malibu, because that's where that's where this happened. That's where this art class was, in Malibu. So basically, it was on the house of this man by the name of Carter. He was he is, I don't know if he's still teaching or what happened to him by now, but he was a teacher, an engineering teacher at some university there in California, and he was also extremely rich because he was an inventor, and he he and his wife were also apparently swingers, and they had a house that was basically a big sex house. It was basically like Quagmire's house on steroids. It was so it was a nice outside yard. It was on a ranch there in Malibu. They had a pool outside, a little watering area. And the pool actually I'll go into that later, but inside the house there were rooms all over the place with beds all over the place. One of the bedrooms had actually a mirror on the ceiling. There were stripper poles. There was a nice living room area with a fireplace, and that's where we were hanging out mostly after the job. See, okay, what happened was I went there with this man that I had just met at this photo shoot. He picked me up, and this is probably really dumb dumb, like for most people. Actually, I on the way over there, I had an epiphany come across my head. Like literally, I told like nobody where I was going, and I just hopped into the vehicle with this man I just met a couple days ago, and I'm off on an adventure with him. And so yeah, so he picked me up from my house there in North Hollywood, and we drove, and we talked a lot along the way. He was very forthcoming and everything. He was told me about his wife and how, you know, they were swingers, but I don't know if he was lying or not. He probably might have been. Um, and then he told me about his daughter, how she had cancer and she overcame it. Like, she was a miracle child. And he was just telling me all these, things. And it seemed like, it was all right. There was one thing that he mentioned, and this is kind of, at this point, is where I started, like, questioning my decisions and having that epiphany. He started telling me about how he was in the army. He was like an officer in the army, and he had been accused by one of his female platoon members or whatever that he had raped her. And he was telling me, like, how he thought it wasn't rape because they agreed to have sex, but he just got a little rough because that's how he got in in the sack. Like, he just liked to get a little rough, and I guess she didn't like it, and whatever. Like, he told me that story, and I was just like, why is he telling me this, and why am I here by myself? But whatever, I was in too deep already, so I just decided to go along with it. I don't know, just get paid and get back home as soon as possible. So I did. I got there, and that part, like the part of being in that actual class and the conversation I had afterwards with all the people that were in that class, it was amazing. Like, it was, we all had a heart to heart after they drew me naked up there. We all went outside. I put my clothes back on. We all went outside and we smoked. Smoking is not illegal in California, so we all smoked and we talked and opened up and stuff, and it was a nice experience. And then all of the people in the class started leaving, and Richard started asking me if I wanted to stay. Actually, I think he had already told me in the beginning that there was going to be a party afterwards and that I could stay if I wanted to, but you know, I didn't have to, and that it was a nude party, and that the you didn't have to be nude if you didn't want to. You didn't, it wasn't mandatory, but that was the theme of like what everybody did or whatever. And I wasn't really up for that because I knew it was kind of like a swinger thing, because he was explaining it all to me, how it worked and everything. Of, you go there with your, you bring a couple or whatever by yourself, whatever, and you swing, you click, you if you feel something, you go for it. If not, then you don't. It's just totally up to you. It's totally up to you. Like, there's no pressure on anything. He was just, it seemed like almost he was trying to groom me, to be okay with it or whatever, to open my mind to it. And I'm like, up up until that point, like, I had a very, like, narrow-minded view of relationships and sex. Like, I didn't think, that was right to be in a relationship and going and having sex with other people. Like, to me, that just seemed very wrong. And especially if you're married, like, because he was telling me that a bunch of married couples go, and I was like, I don't know, I can't see that. But whatever, I wasn't trying to judge or anything. I'm there just observing, watching, listening. And so I ended up staying for the the swinger party or whatever, which ended up turning out pretty awkward towards the end because, well, alright, so I wasn't planning on getting naked for the party because that wasn't my whole thing. Like, my thing was just to get paid and then put my clothes back on. Like, that's it. As slutty as that sounds, I didn't want to, like, be socializing like that naked with everybody, especially, guys, because that's all there were. But I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm there. And also, I was kind of like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a defense mechanism to a certain degree, to, like, just not be too negative or too, like, unwilling to participate with somebody that you don't really trust and you don't feel like you're in a completely safe environment. So I mean, I think it was part of that made me want to stay, and also, like, curiosity, a little bit of curiosity, but not much. Especially after that experience, I was like, I don't want to see any more of this. But anyways, so everybody in the art class leaves, and except for one guy. He was an Australian dude. His name was Jake. And Richard obviously didn't leave, and Carter, the owner of the house. Carter was about, like, I would say 70 years old at the time, probably maybe late 60s. He was an old man. He was old. And him and his wife both lived there on the property, but this house that we were at, like, where it had all these, like, swinger beds and everything, and you know um sexual flyers and whatnot in the bathrooms for you to look at while you're peeing. That was, I guess, more Carter's house, or the swinger house, and then his wife had her own huge house, like, on the same property, but, like, in a different area. And she was there at the time, and you know during all this, I'm just, I'm trying not to ask too many questions to seem like I'm being judgmental, but I'm curious, like, like, how do you do that? Like, how does that work? How do you not get jealous? And so all these questions are just racing through my mind, but I'm letting them, come to me as the night unfolds. I'm letting the opportunities come for me to ask without, feeling like if I'm being too judgmental. So it starts off with me going to the living room area. There's these couches, a love seat couch, and then these other, like, long couches along the walls, and then there's a fireplace on the other side, and and they had the music on, or he had turned on the music and put the fireplace, the light at the fireplace and whatnot, and it was dark and dim, and they were all naked there already. By the time I went in, Carter was already naked, and I forgot who was with him. He was with somebody else, I think. I don't remember. But anyways, Richard and me went in, and then Richard starts undressing, because that's what they do. They hang out naked and talk and chill and do drugs and, get drunk, whatever, have sex. And, so yeah, I wasn't gonna get naked, but then when I saw Richard, like, fully naked, and Richard, this 60-year-old, like, or 70-year-old man, like, all wrinkly there, just naked, fully naked. I think he had a robe on, but he was, like, exposed. Or no, he was completely naked. Or he had it, but he kept putting it on and off throughout the night. But anyways, yeah, it just felt really weird. Like, standing there, fully clothed, in front of these two grown men with wives and kids and whatnot, and professional jobs, and just being there with them naked. Like, I don't know, it just felt really awkward. Like, I could feel them getting insecure because I wasn't, like, exposed the way they were, and I could feel them starting to, like, wonder if, maybe they made a mistake with inviting me or something, because I wasn't uh, on their same vibration pretty much. So I was like, fuck it, I'll get naked too. Like, this is awkward. I think I said, like, this is awkward, like, being dressed. I'm just gonna get naked. So so I got naked and I was sitting there with them. We were all just sitting there on the couch and smoking, talking. Carter started talking about how his neighbor used to be Jack Nicholson, and how they'd always have parties there all the time, and he would go to the parties, swinger parties, and how there were all kinds of. Richard was telling me too that he'd go to these parties, and how there were all kinds of A-list celebrity actors and actresses there, and just the Hollywood elite pretty much would be the main guests there. And it just, it was just all information that I had no idea. Like, I had no concept that this happened like this, to this degree, on that level. And it was very, you know, it was a very odd experience, because I was feeling all these things in me, like sickening, things in my gut and whatnot, like, of all the information that I was processing. But I was trying to process it without being judgmental, because I did kind of, there was a part of me that was a little, like I said, I had my defenses up, and I wasn't sure, who these people were exactly. And I was on a ranch in his house, and I don't know what they do, what's the worst things they've done. Like, I don't know any of that. So I got scared. I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't a little bit, but I didn't. I was just ignoring that part of me. I wasn't letting that part of me come out at all. Like, I was just like, just stay present in the present moment. Just keep, you know, asking questions, and keep them entertained, and keep going. So I did, and throughout the night, like, me and Richard ended up going into one of the bedrooms that had the ceiling on it. I know he was hoping that we would have sex, but I told him straight up, like, from the beginning, I'm not doing anything with anybody, and I don't care if I'm naked or what. I'm not doing shit, like, anything. I'll watch, I'll be there, but I'm not gonna participate. So, he was there in the bed trying to get sexual or look sexy, and I was just like, talking to him and being in my own little world at the same time. Um, there was a moment where we were laying on the bed and staring at the ceiling, at our naked bodies on the ceiling, and talking. And then Carter comes passing by, and he's staring at me, and he said, like, oh, you're so beautiful. And he started, like, touching my leg, and he said something along the lines of, like, oh, if he can have a go or something, like, he wanted me to partake in his sexual adventures. And I was like, ew. I was like, no, thank you. I just, like, moved my leg away from his head. No, thank you. I'm good. And so, yeah, he just, like, he said something, but he saw, like, he could sense in my reaction that I was disgusted, and I think it kind of embarrassed him a bit, and he pulled back. But I didn't care. And after that moment, he was kind of like less talkative as before, and that's when he just kept his robe on most of the night already. After that, and a little after that incident, actually, is when another couple arrived. Apparently, a husband and wife. The wife was there to get plowed by Carter, and the husband was gonna watch. And I was invited to partake, but at this point I was already getting like I was starting to feel like more red lights coming on, in my head. Like I was like, no, I can't stay here any longer. Like if this starts to get more tense, like sexual, I don't know. Like this guy just told me that he like basically raped a girl while they were like doing sexual things. So who knows what the fuck he might try. Like I'm not trying to stay here and let him get hot and bothered enough to try something. So I started telling him that I want to go home because he told me in the beginning, like, I told him, like, I would take my own car, but he was like, no, I'll take you and I'll bring you back whenever you want. Whenever you want, I'll bring you back. I was going to take my own car initially, so I'm not that stupid. But he kept insisting, that he'd take me and that, so I could save gas and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, all right, fine, whatever. But I want to leave. When I want to leave, like, we're leaving. Like, you can't, like, I don't want to stay there any longer. Like, and I don't want to put you in an awkward spot where you want to stay and I have to leave, or I want to leave. So that's why I wanted to take my car, and he was like, no, no, no. Whenever you want to go, we'll go. All right, cool. This was my, like, saving grace, my, you know, whatever, my chance to get out. So I told him that I wanted to leave. And he started getting kind of like with a tone, like he was like, well, you want to leave? And he, like kind of trying to like talk me out of it. And I was like being nice at first, like, no, I want to leave. Like, I don't want to stay anymore. Like, I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. I started saying all this shit. And he was like, he said something like, oh, but I don't remember. He basically was saying something along the lines like, oh, I don't want to leave. And I snapped at him at that point, and I was like, no, like, you told me that whenever I wanted to leave, we could leave, and I want to leave now, so you're taking me. And like Carter, because I said that in front of Carter and the other people that were there, the couple that was about to like engage in a threesome, and and they all looked at me like surprised, that I started getting aggressive. And so he was like, okay, okay. So yeah, he took me back, and on the way back we were talking, but by then I was already starting to like unwind like all my thoughts and everything that I had been not processing, but like staving off within me to process later, because I didn't want to throw up. And so yeah, like he ends up dropping me off fine and everything, and inviting me to go back, another time. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. And as soon as I closed the fucking door to his car, and I started walking to my gate, I started like my stomach just like fell. Like I was like, ooh, and I started feeling so nauseous, and I threw up that night actually in the shower later that night. I stayed up, and I felt sick, and I couldn't like believe everything that I had just heard. Like, was this the world that I was really striving to be a part of, that I really wanted to like, go and engage with so much? Is this what the off camera world is about for people like that? Like, I mean, I'm sure not every actor in Hollywood partakes in that. I'm sure they all know about it, and they've just learned to like deal with it in their own way. You know, maybe they enjoy it, or they don't partake in the swinger part or whatever. But I don't know. I really don't even know like how bad those parties get or what they do there, because from the looks on from the look on Richard's face when he was telling me like about the parties, he was just like, because he was like, oh man, they do some crazy shit, they do some crazy shit. And I was like, well, what kind of, like, what do you mean crazy shit? And he just looked at me like, crazy, crazy. And I was like, okay. And so yeah. um I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. It's been 25 minutes already, and I'm starting to get, like, think about everything and starting to feel nauseous, like, going back to that place. I don't know, it brings up so many different emotions within me, like sickness, sadness, longing, you know, um, hopelessness, because that was just like my biggest dream. I just had such a different idea of what it was like.